Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode. Hope you're having a nice day, and we have a very fun topic ahead of us. The whole world has bad drivers. No country or city in the whole world is immune to them. What's funny to me is that most of us don't consider ourselves bad drivers. We always look at others. Maybe we even judge them, which is why this lesson is going to be kind of funny. In this 5-minute English episode, I'm going to tell a fictional story about the worst driver in the world. He's going to do everything wrong. The things I'm going to mention in this episode are common and mostly what people complain about. By the end of this lesson, you'll have learned vocabulary related to bad driving, what people say to themselves when bad driving occurs, or maybe what they say to a police officer if reporting cases of bad or reckless driving, and you'll briefly learn a few ways that drivers are punished in the U.S. This lesson will be intense in terms of vocabulary. I highly recommend signing up to premium content so you can get the full lesson that goes along with this audio. You'll also have the chance to master the vocabulary with my help and more. So, what inspired this lesson? As you may know, I'm currently in Brazil, and the first time I drove here, which was this trip, my stress level went through the roof. To go through the roof means to spike or to increase to an extremely high level. My stress level went through the roof because I was not used to driving here. There are more motorcycles than back in the States. I was not used to so many buses and forms of public transportation and roundabouts. It just made me feel uneasy, very, very uncomfortable. You've probably felt this way in foreign countries too, right? Despite my pretty high level in Portuguese, I realized that in difficult driving situations, I can't describe what is happening well in Portuguese. At least not with the words a Brazilian would use. In all honesty, a Brazilian would probably sound cooler, maybe even use some expressions. Immediately when I realized this, I thought foreigners in the U.S. must feel exactly the same way. Later that same week, I got a message from a listener named Yuri, who's originally from Belarus and is living in New Jersey. Yuri said, "If you asked me what topic I would recommend touching on, I'd say car accidents or being stopped by the police, and all phrases and terminology related to that." Yuri went on to say that it would be useful to be able to describe clearly, in detail, what drivers are doing around us. We are on the same wavelength, Yuri. Thank you so much for your suggestion. I hope this lesson teaches you just how to talk about bad driving around you. Please let me know what you think. Without further ado, let's begin today's episode. Doug just left the gym. For the past hour, he's been lifting weights, trying to forget what happened earlier that day. His girlfriend of 2 years broke up with him. She said he was hot-headed and self-centered. She also dragged on about how he was a bad listener. But to be honest, he wasn't really paying attention. He slammed the phone down, and that was that. Doug never felt so rejected. Even the gym didn't help. In hopes of getting in a better mood, Doug decides to go to a bar across town. You see Doug for the first time when he pulls up beside you in his big silver truck. His windows are down, his music is blasting, and you notice a big American flag hanging out of the back. When he steps on the gas, black fumes come out of his tailpipe. You can't help but pass some judgment. That guy must be annoying. It turns out he's the worst driver you've ever seen. Although it's rush hour and you're stuck in traffic, the man in the silver truck seems to think he can get ahead of everyone. Every time he changes lanes, which is every few seconds, he doesn't turn on his blinker. And that drives you nuts. You can't help but think, who do you think you are? Turn on your blinker, dude. Something tells you he's trouble, so you keep your distance. Up ahead, you see him run a red light, almost hitting a pedestrian in the crosswalks. He's what you'd call an aggressive driver, or even a reckless driver. Reckless drivers put you on edge. Many of them break the law by speeding and ignoring traffic signs. You're tempted to call 911 and file a report, since he's putting so many drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians at risk. You don't like when bad drivers get away scot-free. You wish they'd get caught. When you arrive at Caputo's, your favorite Italian restaurant, you forget all about the hot-headed man in the silver truck. That is, until your trip home. After dinner, you walk out into a dark parking lot and jump into your car. You turn on the ignition, flip on your headlights, and merge onto Main Street. Traffic is lighter than before, but there are still quite a few cars on the road. You stop at a stop sign and then head into a roundabout. As usual, you yield to oncoming traffic and then turn on your blinker before pulling off at your exit. Right then, out of nowhere, a big truck pulls up behind you, so uncomfortably close to your bumper, you're afraid that you're going to get into a fender bender. They're going to run into you. Although their headlights are blinding, you can make out the annoying man in the silver truck. He's back. And this time, he's tailgating. He's a tailgater, and he won't stop riding on your butt. You try to ignore him, but you hear yourself say, "Dude, get off my butt." As if he hears you, you watch him swerve into the lane next to you, cutting off a green van. They honk at him and slam on their brakes to avoid getting in an accident. Instinctually, you grip the steering wheel tightly, ready for him to cut you off too. But fortunately, he doesn't. He speeds off into the sea of taillights ahead. Most countries in the world have certain hand gestures to express extreme dislike for someone's behavior, especially when driving. In the US, we give someone the middle finger or give someone the finger. That girl gave me the finger. In other words, she flipped me off. To flip someone off is a phrasal verb. The man in the silver truck is scary looking, so you avoid flipping him off. It's just not worth it. Just then, sirens interrupt your thoughts. When you look back in your rear view mirror, you can see a police car with red lights flashing on the roof. You pull into the right lane and slow down as they zoom past. A few minutes later, traffic slows down to a stop. You wonder if there's an accident, or if the slowdown is because of a bunch of rubberneckers, people who enjoy staring at problems and accidents on the road. But no, there was no accident. From the looks of it, a highway patrol officer pulled someone over. As you drive closer, you see the silver truck parked on the shoulder of the highway and a large, muscular man just outside of it, taking a breathalyzer test. Had the man been driving under the influence? In other words, under the influence of alcohol or drugs? He had been. That night, Doug got a DUI and a speeding ticket. DUI penalties vary from state to state. Doug would certainly need to appear in front of a judge, and his license would likely be suspended. He would probably have to pay a fine and maybe even do jail time or hours of community service. Chances are he'd also probably have to visit AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. There will always be bad drivers. The best thing we can do to deal with road rage is to keep calm and carry on. For me, that was a really fun 5-minute English episode because this person I can picture in my head. Have you ever seen this driver on the road before? I feel like we've all experienced this person. Now, there are so many things that people can do wrong on the road. They can make illegal U-turns, not obey traffic signs. But what we covered here are the most common bad driving characteristics. Let me repeat some of them. To run a red light. The light's red and you go through it. The light should be green or maybe yellow. Doug ran a red light. To tailgate or to ride on someone's butt. It means to drive right behind them, too close. Once again, we would say things like, dude, get off my butt. You might use some swear words here if you feel like it, but I'll avoid that today. To swerve into other lanes, right? The swerving is this sort of fast movement, maybe erratic even, when you're not calm and staying within the lines, right? The lines of your lane, right? So you might say in that moment, stop swerving, stay in your lane. What are you doing? Another thing people do that's frustrating for others is not turning on their blinker. You might say, use your blinker, or dude, turn on your blinker. I find that I say dude in this context quite a bit, whereas in regular life, it's not a word that I use in my regular vocabulary. To cut someone off is the last one. This happens all the time. You might cut someone off in conversation. It's like you interrupt them in a way. I cut you off or you cut me off. That's a phrasal verb form of to interrupt. And also this can happen in traffic, right? Someone drives right in front of you to the point where you don't have enough space to continue at your regular speed. You might have to step on the brakes or slam on the brakes, which would be very fast. And yeah, it's not pleasant. So in this situation, you would probably hear some swear words.